When I turned 71, I packed my entire life into the back of an old pickup and drove into the mountains. There was no ceremony, no tearful goodbye. Just the crunch of gravel under tires and the distant hiss of a life I was quietly leaving behind. My name is Evelyn March, and I had no intention of ever coming back down. I bought a small cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains, the kind of place where the fog rolls in every morning like a thick curtain, swallowing the world whole before slowly lifting in time for the late sun. The walls smelled of cedar and smoke. The floors creaked like old knees. Felt right. It felt like the kind of place where a woman could disappear gently, without too much fuss. I wasn't trying to make a statement. I wasn't chasing some dramatic ending. I just didn't want to feel like I was waiting for the next phone call that wouldn't come. Waiting for my children to carve a moment out of their busy lives. Waiting for my late husband's voice to fade from memory entirely. Silence can be loud, but here it was soft. Here I could let myself fall away. The first few weeks were a blur of firewood, canned beans, and long, unmapped walks. I read old books by lamplight. I spoke aloud to the wind, to the chipmunks, to the echo of my own breathing. I was lonely, yes, but it was a clean kind of lonely. Not the kind that claws at your insides in the middle of the night. Not yet. It was late October when the knock came. I remember because the wind was howling that evening, pushing against the windows like it wanted in. I hadn't spoken to another human being in over 3 weeks. So when the soft, hesitant knock tapped against the door, I didn't move. I thought I imagined it. Then it came again. She stood there in a red coat, soaked to the bone, her hair sticking to her cheeks. Maybe 45, maybe younger. Her eyes scanned me like someone seeing a photo that doesn't match the caption. "I'm sorry," she said. "I think I'm lost." Her name was Dana. She was a hiker, she said, but had wandered off trail hours ago and her phone had died. I let her in, made tea, offered her the quilt I kept near the stove. She warmed her fingers on the mug like it was sacred. We talked, mostly in broken phrases. Her mother had died the year before. Cancer. Mine too, I said. We didn't need to say much. The ache made its own introductions. She left the next morning, but not without hugging me like we had known each other in some other life. And I felt it, that tiny throb in my chest. That familiar flicker I thought I'd buried beneath layers of grief and years of silence. Weeks passed, then months. She came back. Not lost this time. Just visiting. She brought muffins she'd made, books she thought I'd like. Made soup. We sat by the fire. She asked me once, "Do you ever miss it? The noise?" I laughed. Sometimes, but only in the way you miss things that never really fit. Winter deepened. The cabin grew quieter. My bones ached more. But Dana kept coming. Sometimes we wouldn't even speak. We'd sit and watch the snow pile up on the railing. She began to leave things. A knit scarf, a note in the cupboard, once even a sketch of the cabin she'd drawn from memory. She reminded me of who I used to be, before loss had softened my spine, before time had worn me down into someone who avoided mirrors. I didn't recognize the woman I'd become. Not entirely. But around her pieces returned. I would hum while stirring stew. I would wear the red earrings I hadn't touched in a decade. Once I even brushed my hair. One morning the fire had gone cold. I woke up with a start. The air was so still it felt suspended. I reached for the window latch and paused. On the porch sat a bundle, wrapped in brown paper. A note tucked beneath the twine. "Thought you might like a new brush. Also, the color reminded me of the sunrise you described." Inside was a set of watercolors. I hadn't painted since Edward died. It was something we shared, something sacred. After him, the canvas had stayed blank. But that day I unwrapped them, laid them out on the old table. And with trembling fingers, I painted the mountain. Then the trees. Then the sky. It was a mess. Too bright. Too soft. But it was alive. The next time Dana came, I had 3 paintings on the wall. She studied them like she was looking at maps to something long lost. "They're beautiful," she said. "No," I told her. "They're honest." We grew older together. Not lovers. Not family. Just two souls who'd found a kind of shelter in each other's quiet. Now, when I walk the trails behind the cabin, I carry a small sketchbook in my coat pocket. I draw what I see. Shadows, birds, branches bent under the weight of frost. And when I return, there's always something on the table. A note, a jar of jam, a photograph. I came to the mountains to disappear. But I found a witness. And that, I've learned, is all most of us are ever looking for. Not salvation. Not noise. Just someone to see us. And stay.